awesome. Take a seat, guys. Snowball fight was a bit harder than I thought it was going to be. So Smelly and Alfred did super well. But building snowmen and snow fights is maybe not something that all of us have done. But I did want to start off with showing you my amazing snowman that I built when we were in Tassie in Wellington. Now, if that's going to come up on the screen. Now, Will always teases me about my poor little attempt at my snowman, but I think he's really cute. He may not have black buttons and a nose, but that's the best I could do with a little amount of snow. But that's my little snowman. I don't think I named him, though. I don't think it was an Alfred or a Smelly. Could be. Now, so there's a few things that was starting to go through my mind for this all-in event for a winter wonderland. And now the first that the church series at the moment is called Wonder, and the wonder of Christmas. The second was this Instapic that I found that says wonderful, maybe, yes. Wonderful is something that is outside normal limits, not monotonous, not ordinary, but very different from usual. And that is why the word extraordinary has a meaning as something that is not as usual and not the same as others. And it was also the other third thing that I was thinking about snow was Abby's insistence that they were going to have snow in Canberra in November on her grade 6 camp, which has just gone, which, you know what, it wasn't too far from possible considering the week before it snowed 3 hours away from Canberra. So it was close. But a wonderland is a place that is strange, very beautiful, or exciting. What if we had a winter wonderland on Christmas Day in Queensland? In summer, right? It would definitely cause wonder. Yeah, right. Who said yeah, right? It's not impossible. I did some research, thanks to Google, but it's not impossible for it to snow in Queensland or in summer in Australia. So the most likely and most common place that it snows in Queensland is down near Stanthorpe, and the last time it did was in 2015. But Stanthorpe also had what they called the Great Fall of July 1984, which saw 60 centimetres of snow. Yeah, so it's quite a lot. So in the winter months, there's been snow in Roma, Bunya Mountains, Wollongara, Springbrook. So now Brisbane has had some snow, and there was several years of it, but it was never enough to settle on the ground, so they don't count Brisbane as ever having snow. But also, apparently, in 1997, Uluru had snow. I know my geography is not that bad. I know it's not in Queensland, but that one was like a surprising one. But the most northern place in Queensland that it has snowed was in 1965, just to the west of Mackay. I thought that was quite high up for it to snow. And I haven't been able to find any Queensland white Christmases, but it came close when it snowed in Thredbo on the 6th of December 2013, and even closer, missing out by only 6 days, was Kosciuszko and Mount Hotham on the 19th of December 2010. So it's not impossible for us in Australia to have a white Christmas, but it would certainly cause a great deal of wonder if we did. A white Christmas, like that Insta post before said, would definitely be outside the normal limits, not ordinary and far from usual for us. How fun would it be to build a snowman or to go sledding or to have snow fights on Christmas Day? Me personally, maybe because it's not usual for us, I feel that would be so much better than sweltering in the heat with no aircon and backyard cricket, because cricket's not my favourite thing. Although Will did make a good point, water fights are always better in the summer and not in winter. But a white Christmas would cause a sense of wonder and admiring of the beauty that a winter wonderland and the snow holds. Now I want to take a moment to look at the 7 wonders of the world. So both the ancient and modern wonders. So all of them are big, they're magnificent, and they're beautiful man-made creations and their arts of work, and you can see why they made the list. Or the 7 natural wonders of the world. So they're also large, they're beautiful, and they're unusual, and you can see again why they could make the list. And we'll take a look at those natural wonders closer shortly. But all of these natural wonders are the biggest and the best that the world has to offer. The highest mountains, the biggest falls, the deepest valleys. And just like those Insta posts, these wonders are outside the limits. They're not normal like the others. They're not ordinary, not same as other mountains or reefs. But it's also just like that for God's love for each of us. And so I want to take a moment to explore the wonder of God's love. So John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall have eternal life." And if we take a look at Isaiah chapter 9, verse 6, it says, For unto us a child is born, unto us a son is given, and the government will be on his shoulder, and his name will be called Wonderful, Counselor, Mighty God, Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. So the Hebrew word here for wonderful, and I'm not going to say it right, is pele, I think. And that means marvel, to wonder, extraordinary, and hard to understand. If we read again, just in another verse, in Ephesians chapter 3, verse 18 to 19, it says, May you have the power to understand, as all God's people should, how wide, how long, how high, and how deep his love is. May you experience the love of Christ, though it is too great to understand fully. Then you will be made complete with all the fullness of life and power that comes from God. To take a moment, let's take a closer look at those natural wonders of the world. So the Great Barrier Reef is one of the natural wonders of the world, and probably one of my regrets when I didn't go visit it when I lived in North Queensland. But it is the largest coral reef in the world. It includes over 900 islands, over 2,900 separate reefs. It is 2,300 kilometres long, and has 344,400 square kilometres, and it can be seen from outer space. So we can see why that would be one of the natural wonders of the world. We've also got the Northern Lights. And it's the most amazing sight is when the Northern Lights appear as waves in the sky. And it's almost as if the lights are dancing, and it's just beautiful. And my measurement is sky high for that one, because that was Google didn't tell me that one. Then we've got Mount Everest. Mount Everest is the highest mountain in the world, and the summit reaches 29,000 feet. The harbour of Rio de Janeiro, not one that I knew very well, but it's got these granite monolith mountains, and so there's 3 mountains. There's one that goes to 395 metres high, 704 metres, and then the highest mountain around it is the 1,021 metres as well. So that one is another wonder of the world. And then we have a volcano, Parikatan. So it's 10,400 feet above sea level, and it's 200 metres wide. You can actually now walk around it and hike it as well. But why this one was so amazing, like it looks pretty huge there, but we were actually able to watch it grow from nothing. So from 1943 to 1952, it was just a field. It was a field, and then 1943 to 1952, it actually grew when it became a volcano. So that's pretty cool. The Victoria Falls. So it is the largest waterfalls based on the width and the height. So it is 1.7 kilometres wide, 108 meters high. So pretty amazing sight. Will has actually seen the Victoria Falls, but not in wet season though, but it's still an amazing sight. And then we have the Grand Canyon that completes our 7 wonders of the world. So it is 446 kilometers long, and then the width ranges between 6.4 and 29 kilometers, and it is 1.83 kilometers deep. So some of these ones, especially that Grand Canyon one about how far it goes long and wide, you can understand why they are the wonders of the world. And you can see why they're the biggest, deepest, highest natural wonders. The love of Christ is too great to fully understand. And it's a great wonder that we can't maybe not be able to fully comprehend. Yet we should try to grasp how wide, how high, how long, how deep his love is for us. And I think that these natural wonders points back to the marvelous creation of God. Psalm 65:8 says, "The whole earth is filled with awe at your wonders." And perhaps looking at these 7 natural wonders, because even some of those natural wonders is hard to grasp how wide and deep it is as well, can help us try to grasp the wonder of God's love for us. Yet amongst all this, so Pastor Will was speaking last week about the wonder of the small as well. Wonder in the baby boy who was born in a manger, born to unknown and not royal parents, but he came humbly and simply. Perhaps we need to rethink what wonder is in our world, in our lives. And I'm not disputing that these 7 wonders of the world, all the love of Christ, shouldn't cause wonder, because they should. Or that the big special events in our life, perhaps this year or in our life, has been great or has caused wonder for us. But maybe we need to flip things around a little bit as to what a wonder is. How can we find wonder in each day? Because we don't get to visit those 7 wonders of the world or have big, extravagant, exciting events on all the time. The meaning of wonder is a feeling of amazement, admiration caused by something beautiful, remarkable, or unfamiliar. And I think that's a good reminder that we can find amazement and admiration in. What can we find beauty, remarkable around us? And I don't think all the things that we can find wonder in needs to be unfamiliar. Yet maybe finding wonder in each day has become unfamiliar to us. Whether that's from our busy lives, our disappointments or discouragements, or just a habit. We can also read in multiple places in the Bible of wonder, where people wondered at creation. We can read that in Psalm 104, wondered at God's miracles. And there's multiple places. Wondered at the birth of Jesus, wondered at Jesus' miracles. Yet we can also see and read that these same people in the Bible, they forgot later on about the wonder and the goodness of God. And one place you can read about people forgetting is in Psalm 78. But some of these same people who marveled at Jesus' miracles were some of the same that turned against him as well. We can think though, how could somebody forget some of these wonders, like dividing the seas, parting the Red Sea so they can walk across on dry land, or healing the lame, raising the dead, the wonder of the birth of Jesus. Yet we too can easily forget the wonders in our own lives. Or we can so easily miss the wonders that is happening around us. And I'm not disputing there has been some hard circumstances and some tough situations to deal with. But each day, let's not forget about the wonder that we can find, the wonder that is around us, because it's not always about the big wonders, but the small, everyday, remarkable things that can happen too. Just this week, I missed what could have been a great time of wonder. So our power went out, and it was completely dark, and it was really quiet as well. What we could have done, Will did go outside, but he got eaten by mozzies. But what we could have done was to go lie on the trampoline and to look at the stars, because you don't get so much darkness in the city as well. And we could have hung out as the family. Don't get me wrong, we sat in the lounge and we still chatted and stuff, but there's times that we can miss the wonder. I want to sidetrack for a moment and take a look at some headlines. I think I've got them up there. Maybe. Lady couldn't believe her eyes when this happened every day for a year. And another headline, outsider receives extravagant gift that brings her to tears. An act of extreme kindness prevents child from starvation. Mismatched pieces of material bring joy to couple. Now, I would call all of these headlines clickbait headlines. So for those of you who don't know what clickbait is, it's when on the internet, the content has been written for the purpose of attracting attention or to encourage people to click on a link and to read their article. What happened every day for a year? What was the gift? Wow, a child was saved from hunger? What material could bring happiness? But my thought behind this is that maybe we need to clickbait ourselves. Clickbait our brains to start to rethink the wonder in our lives. Now, there is a more scientific version of this and a way to describe it, but we can change our brains through neuroplasticity. So our brains are shaped by our genes and our DNA, but also by our experiences and the way that we think and behave. And we have the capacity to reshape our thoughts, which then becomes the path of least resistance. And our brains can follow that path of least resistance the next time. Now, the fancy words is cognitive distortions and cognitive restructuring. But simply, it's like taking the song that has been stuck in your head on repeat over and over and replacing it with a better song. So, there's actually been a book that I've been reading called Are You Really Okay? And the author explains that there are two sides of a story that we tell ourselves and two different lenses or interpretations that we can see the world in. And she gave this example, her personal example, in which both stories are correct. There is no exaggeration. And I just want to read those two for you. Okay, story number 1. This past fall, John and I decided to take an adventurous family trip to Egypt. Since we're both Egyptian by descent, we thought it would be an incredible way to introduce our children to the culture of their heritage. But sometimes adventures come with adversity. First of all, taking 3 children, one who is a toddler and another who gets extremely motion sickness, on a 12-hour aeroplane ride should be considered an Olympic event. It was an overnight trip, and saying that we got 1 hour of sleep that night would be an overstatement. When we arrived in Cairo, the 7-hour time difference was enough to keep us feeling jet-lagged and miserable for the first 2 days of our time there. Second of all, the culture shock from going from a first world country to a second world country was something that no one can really prepare for. The city of Cairo is one of the busiest and dirtiest cities in the world. There are people and trash and stray animals everywhere. The traffic in Cairo is unlike anything you've ever witnessed. There are absolutely no rules, and trying to cross the street meant literally putting your life at risk every single time. One day, my 3-year-old bolted out onto the road, and I quickly grabbed his hand, pulling him back just in time before he got struck by a car. We had to be extremely cautious about what we ate because ingesting the wrong thing could have made us very sick during our time there. John ended up getting sick, and we were there and spent 12 hours in bed. Not only that, but both our boys got car sick nearly every time we went anywhere because the traffic was so chaotic. Adventures often come with adversity, but I can certainly say Egypt was a trip we won't ever forget. Who wants to go to Egypt? This is also her story. This past fall, John and I decided to take an adventurous family trip to Egypt. Since we're both Egyptian by descent, we thought it would be an incredible way to introduce our children to the culture of their heritage, and it was truly a trip of a lifetime. Taking 3 children, one who is a toddler and another who gets extremely motion sick, was risky, but we bought tons of snacks and activities to keep them busy during the 12-hour plane ride. To our surprise, the motion sickness medication we gave our son did the trick, and he was perfectly fine the entire flight. It was an overnight trip, and saying that we got 1 hour of sleep that night would be an overstatement, but we got to watch movies, play games, and listen to audiobooks. Our tolerance level for long trips has increased. There's nothing we can't tackle now. The culture shock of going from a first world country to a second world country was something no one can really prepare for, but we did our best to talk our children through what they might experience, and our preparation seems to lessen this shock. The city of Cairo is one of the busiest and dirtiest cities in the world, but it's rich in culture. There are people everywhere. The traffic in Cairo is unlike anything you've ever witnessed, but we were careful to only cross the street when we had to and stuck to private transportation. My kids said it felt like playing a game of Crossy Roads, and we all got a laugh out of that. We had to be careful about what we ate because ingesting the wrong thing could have made us very sick during our time there, but the food we did enjoy was incredible. Thankfully, John was the only one who got sick. We were all in good health and able to do everything on our list and more, including seeing the Great Pyramids, boating down the Nile River, visiting the Cairo Museum, and snorkeling in the Red Sea. Every day was packed with new experiences, and it felt magical and surreal all at the same time. Adventures often mean taking risks, but I can certainly say that this was a trip of a lifetime and one that we will never, ever forget. Who wants to go to Egypt now? I thought that was just a great example of the difference of the song that we can play in our head. But going back to my unscientific example of clickbait earlier on, I know everyone wants to know the outcome of those headlines, but I feel like I should be a journalist because I actually created those headlines. But all of these things actually happened this week. The lady couldn't believe her eyes when this happened every day for a year. Does anyone want to guess, besides my family, what this could be? What was it? Oh, so close. I was going to say the sunset. I'll still take that answer though, right? You know what? How beautiful are sunsets? You know what? There's like a kaleidoscope of colours just bursting at the seams, right? Bursting into the sky. And something, you know what? That is something that is familiar. That's something that we do see every day as the sun does come up as well. But we can find beauty and wonder in that. But it doesn't necessarily need to be just the natural things although there's so many beauties and wonders in our creation. Outsider receives extravagant gift that brings her to tears. So some of these you wouldn't know. But I took some toiletries to a lady who actually lives far away from here and was unexpectedly ended up in hospital. So that was one thing that happened this week, but maybe it's also the way that we shape our words. An act of extreme kindness prevents this child from starvation. Can any parents guess this one? Went to McDonald's, got lunch. Act of kindness was a sibling giving up the last ice cream in the box, which we know it's a miracle in itself, right? And that we all know that it would have caused starvation if it wouldn't have happened. Mismatched pieces of material bring joy to couple. Does somebody may get this one? Sandy? Yes. Well done, Sandy. You're good at clickbait. So the Women's Connect group actually collectively, either in prayer or sewing, they actually sewed a beautiful patchwork quilt for Will and I. So it's a beautiful gift. And so, you know what? How can we clickbait our brains to see the wonder around us? So I think we can all take some advice from the song Wonder this morning. Now, that first song is not one that we usually do in church, so I want to take a moment to thank the music team because I asked for it and they did it. And I know that probably wasn't a popular choice, but I really appreciate it and they did a wonderful job, so thank you. But I asked because of the lyrics. So some of the lyrics say, I see the world in light. I see the world in wonder. I see the world in life, bursting in living colour. I see the world your way, and I'm walking in the light. And then later on it says, if you have seen that, say so. So I want to encourage each of us to see the world in light, in wonder, bursting in living colour. And we may need to clickbait our minds for a while before it becomes a habit, before it becomes a habit of seeing the world in wonder, in colour. That we may need to work on changing the song that is in our head to be replaced with a better song. And like the series say, like the lyrics say, if you have seen it, say so. Tell of the wonder and beauty in your world. And let's not forget the great wonders around us, the big moments, the exciting, extraordinary moments, or the hard to understand part of God's love for each of us. But let's also take note of the small wonders in our life. I want to help start you on this journey. So I am guaranteeing White Christmas for all of you. So White Christmas, here we come. That may have been a bit of a clickbait then. Will, do you want to? We do have a gift for all of you though, and it is a recipe for White Christmas. So it was a little bit of clickbait, not exaggerate, not a lie. So there's a White Christmas recipe in there. So you can make that White Christmas with your family, with your friends, and enjoy some time together, making it, slowing down to enjoy the wonder with others. Now there's one for every household as well. But the jar actually holds more value than that. It is actually going to be a wonder jar. So there's a small piece of paper here for you as well, for you to write down, like the lyrics say, if you have seen the wonder, say so. That you can write down what is happening in the world, what colours of light that you have come across, what big or small wonders have been in your life. As I'd like to change the song that's been in our brains to one of wonder and goodness, and help us see the world in light. And then the papers get placed in the jar, and by the end of the next year, the jar will be filled with the wonders that you have experienced. And that we will have that feeling of amazement and admiration caused by something beautiful, remarkable, and that those wonders would actually be familiar to us as well. So I'd love to invite Will just to come up.